At the last election, Ward 7, which is Verner, the Verner area, had just over 1,000 registered voters.
Okay.
And then we have Ward 2 here, which encompasses the west side of Sturgeon Falls and then Cache Bay up to Beaudry Road. And that had 2,500 registered. So with that imbalance, and then the others fall somewhere in the middle, but it's more just an effort to kind of, it's hard to equalize when you have rural areas versus urban areas, but this kind of thing, like get it a little closer to par. So a lot of the shifts are shifts by a couple of streets that take, 100 households here and 100 households there, to try to adjust those boundaries to give Ward 7 a few more people. So the Ward 7 councillor kept joking, no, it's okay.
Yeah, I see that. You took something out of here and put it in this one.
Yeah.
When we do the questions at the end.
Okay. And I always like you've changed.
Just a little bit here. So we haven't changed yet, but the
You're good? Okay. Wasn't sure there'd be a dress code, so I don't.
Good evening and welcome to our presentation on the proposed ward boundary review for the municipality of West Nipissing. Bonsoir et merci d'être ici ce soir pour écouter notre présentation pour l'ajustement des quartiers pour Nipissing West. The purpose of a ward boundary review is largely, the Municipal Act contains relevant information that says you should do a ward boundary review. However, it doesn't really give much in the way of guidance. However, historically, most municipalities will look at their wards once per electoral term and decide whether or not anything needs to be done. West Nipissing has had the same structure since amalgamation, which was in 1999. And at that time, the structure was set by what's called a transition board. And there were representatives of all of the municipalities which were amalgamating Cache Bay, Sturgeon, Caldwell, Field, and the unincorporated areas. And there were representatives on each one, and they were the ones charged with the task, the daunting task of how to put together 5 incorporated municipalities and 17 and a half unincorporated townships. And that was in 1999, and we are here in 2025, and a lot has changed. West Nipissing has grown over the last 3 census, which is a feat that not very many Northern Ontario municipalities can boast of. And we have evolved from a cluster of individual and very separate towns and townships into what's West Nipissing. And even in the time that I've been here, a lot has changed and more people identify themselves. I'm from West Nipissing. At one time, I'm from Verner or whatever. And I think now that West Nipissing is the vibrant community that was intended by the people who were here in those days. So the review is not intended to be comprehensive. We are not looking at any changes in the number of wards. We're not looking at any changes in the number of councillors. What we're looking at for this one is mainly to look at the individual wards and see whether or not the boundaries of those wards that made sense in 1999, whether they still make sense today in light of population growth and demographic shift in the municipality. So we started last summer with an initial report that was brought to council. And council at that time indicated that it was maybe a good idea to take a look at some things. So in May the 6th, the report was brought back to council with some preliminary options. And council had a fairly robust discussion, and they had lots of thoughts, and we exchanged some ideas. And what is being put forward today is a result of those conversations had by council at that time. So there is a public website, and anyone who wishes to continue or to submit feedback or have questions, you're welcome to do so. The website will be open until the 15th of August. And it is hoped that on September 7th or September 2nd, a bylaw will be ready to come to council for adoption with a view of, there's a 45-day appeal period that follows that. And if there's no appeals, we move forward. So although I said earlier that there are no actual rules to having a ward boundary review, there are some guiding principles which have been adopted over time, and they're actually called the Carter Principles, because I am assuming that this is the fellow's name who sort of created this thing. And almost every municipality uses these 5 principles when they're doing a ward boundary review. So the first one is representation by population. And that is basically ensuring that every ward is have roughly the same number of residents or electors. And that's a tough thing to do, because West Nipissing is comprised of a very, very vast rural area and a very condensed urban area. So you'll see when we go further on, the rural wards are fairly equal, and the urban wards, we've attempted to equalize them as well, because they had gotten a little bit out of skew. So the second principle is to reflect communities of interest and identity, which is that the boundaries should reflect the local communities and the neighborhoods that have things in common. So in the outlying areas, the tendency is to cluster the types of areas that are clustered. For example, Ward 8 is largely clustered of tourism and tourist camps and seasonal dwellings with some rural properties. The urban wards are within the boundaries of Sturgeon Falls. So that's basically the cultural and historical histories. Obviously, Caldwell Township mostly has an agricultural identity. Field has a different identity, which includes some of the outlying areas into Grant Township and other areas like that. River Valley, which is in Ward 6, River Valley, Kipling, although they're very different communities, they are communities at the very west limit of the municipality, and have been well served by the people who have been elected out in that area over the years. The third principle is to account for population changes and disparities, which is one of the main reasons we're doing this. There has been a lot of growth in Sturgeon Falls, and particularly in the southwest corner. At the time of amalgamation, that southwest corner of Sturgeon Falls, there was nobody there. It was just fields. And since then, we have the Demers subdivision, Riverfront, Majo, and we are having there's been a lot of development down in that corner, which has resulted in a bit of a shift, because that was in Ward 2. Ward 2 is Cache Bay and all the way out to Beaudry Road. So that ward got really big, and it was kind of lopsided. So this review is intended to address a little bit of that. Natural and physical boundaries. You're supposed to divide your wards by logical boundaries. In Sturgeon Falls, Highway 17 has always been mostly the north-south boundary, and Nipissing Street being a major intersection for the most part, except for a little jog was used. In the rural areas, most of I'm not entirely sure how the initial boundaries were figured out, but they're basically used the township boundaries as the boundaries of the day, because they were whole townships clustered into wards, sorry, word escaped me. The last one is, that's okay, is effective representation. So that one is ensuring that every person in every ward is effectively and fairly represented by the ward councillor who is elected to serve them. So by trying to keep them equal and trying to keep communities of interest in, together and, adhering to the 3 or the 4 previous boundaries, that last one is usually pretty easy to achieve. And with the minor adjustments we're planning on making, I think it'll make what we already have, which is pretty good, even a little bit better. So onward and upward. Currently, the West Nipissing is consisting of 8 boundaries. This was the original ward. This was actually inside the amalgamation order. This was the schedule that was attached to the amalgamation order, which sets out the wards. So you'll see that we're divided. The Ward 6, east part of Janes, Dana, McWilliams, Creer, Gibbons, Hugo, Badgerow, and Kirkpatrick. 7 was all of Caldwell. 8 is McPherson, Loudon, Falconer, Latchford, Bertram, and all of the islands in the lake, except for one little green one that happens to be in Springer. We didn't notice that till today.
It's not an island, actually. It's attached to the mainland, but I don't think there's a road. I think it's
kind of like a peninsula thing.
Yeah, I think it's
But it
maybe
goes,
water
but
access only.
it's not in the mainland, so I don't know, they just drew it this way.
Yeah.
Those boundaries are very rudimentary. And Ward 5, which is one of the ones that I'll be talking about, Ward 5 is the northeastern unincorporated areas, which is Bastido, Fell. Bastido's up in the Pike Lake area. Fell, Field, Grant, Springer, Pedley, and Bocage. And then there's the 4 wards in town, which are mainly divided by Highway 17 and Nipissing Street, except for a little jog up to King Street. And there are 4 wards in town, which they all have their own representative. And that is the current structure, and we're not changing that structure at all. We're still going to have 4 wards in town and 4 rural wards. So I'm going to briefly go through what the adjustment is for each of the wards and to explain what we've done. In some cases, it's very minor. In some cases, it's a little more intensive. For Ward 1, because Ward 1 is the southeast section of town, that concentration of population that I mentioned in the southeast corner of Sturgeon Falls, which is in the Demers riverfront area of town. That boundary used to be King Street for Ward 1. So everything west of King Street was in Ward 2. By shifting the boundary just a little bit to the west to Roy Street, it picks up a lot of development that has taken place, as well as a significant amount of development which is currently underway and will be taking place in the next probably 6 months. There are two new subdivisions due to be finalized, which will actually increase that Ward 1 even a little bit more than what is showing in the numbers that I'll be presenting later. So that's the only change in Ward 1, is moving that boundary, shifting it from King Street to Roy Street and straight up. Did you have a question? A check? Okay, next is Ward 2. Ward 2, and I know they look funny on here because they're just screenshots of the whole thing, but Ward 2 is all of Cache Bay and all of that rural area that extends all the way to the boundary of Caldwell Township. So it's quite a vast area with a population centered in Cache Bay, and you'll see the town of Sturgeon Falls is actually there. But anyways, the change we've made in this one is to cut that corner off that you'll see the jog on the northeast side, is that piece that came out of this that we've added to Ward 1. And the other little change that we added was that little triangle at the top, which is a little piece that used to be the line between 2 and 3 at Goatse Road. To maintain those geographic divisions, the suggestion was made to just cut it right at the highway and add that little triangle back onto Ward 2, so that Ward 3 would be all above Highway 17. Ward 3, the boundary, there was always kind of a little bit of aside from that little triangle, which we took out south of Highway 17 is that line at the bottom. The boundary before between Ward 3 and Ward 5 was right down the middle of Stewart Road and Laver Drive, which made it kind of strange because we had one councillor representing the people on the south side of the road and a different councillor representing the people on the north side of the road. So what we did was we shifted the boundary for Ward 3 northerly to, instead of being at the front of those properties, it's at the back of those properties. So everybody on Stewart Road and Lavar Drive will be represented by Ward 3 rather than the divide in the middle. And we took out that little triangle south of the highway to Goatse Road. Ward 4. Ward 4 has a very significant change because, as I mentioned earlier, Ward 5 included all of Pedley and Bocage townships, which are very big townships. They're not hugely populated, but there's a fairly vast land area, but they lie east of Sturgeon Falls. They're not near Field. And the Ward 5 is largely Field, Crystal Falls, that kind of area. And the people would come in sometimes. This is my 4th election coming up, and people would say to me sometimes, why am I voting in Field? I don't understand. And I think it was just at the time to divide up those unincorporated townships sort of evenly. There's not a lot of people in the Pedley and Bocage Township, and by shifting them to Ward 4, that it really only changes the number of electors by less than 200 people, but the people there are more closely aligned with Sturgeon Falls than they are with Field. So that is it's a fairly, geographically it's a big change, but population elector-wise, it's not significant in terms of changing the numbers, but it does change the geography. Next slide. Ward 5. Ward 5 used to consist of Field. I actually wrote that down. Ward 5 consists of Field, Grant, Bastido, Fell, and Pedley and Bocage. So now the stuff on the right, Pedley and Bocage, which actually was a little bit farther down, has been removed. And that area is Ward 5, which is all pretty much everything east of Highway 64, north and east of Highway 64. That is Ward 5. Oh, and at the bottom of Ward 5, there's a slight shift. The Laver Drive and Stewart Road people are out of Ward 5 and back into Ward 3, as mentioned in the previous. Next slide, please. Ward 6. Ward 6 is the northwest section of West Nipissing and consisted of Kirkpatrick, Hugo, Badgerow, Crerar, Gibbons, Dana, McWilliams, and the east half of Janes Township. What we're doing with Ward 6 is we are removing the section of Kirkpatrick Township that lies south of Highway 17. That section of that ward aligns more geographically and culturally and agriculturally with Burner. And so the council agreed that perhaps that section, using the division line of Highway 17, would be added to Ward 7 and come out of Ward 6. So that is the change in Ward 6. Ward 7, you can see the piece on the left. That is that south portion of Kirkpatrick Township. Piquette Road, Michelle Road, Milrand Road, Carmen Road, trying to think, North-South Road, all of those areas will now belong to Ward 7. Ward 7 was and has been right from the beginning the smallest ward. By making this shift, it will actually bring Ward 7 into kind of even with all of the other rural wards and not be as small population-wise as it was. The other change to Ward 7 is to shift that south boundary a little bit south. So as the line used to run, again, down the middle of the road, it used to run down the middle of Rainville Road, creating a division. So the north side of Rainville was in Ward 7 and the south side of Rainville was in Ward 8. By shifting that boundary down to Alouette Road, it changes that significantly. There are no residential properties on the north side of Alouette Road, so it makes no difference. All the dwellings are on the south side because the north side of Alouette Road is the back side of the Rainville Road properties. If that makes any sense. But it does get all the people on Rainville Road, which has a lot of residents, all into Ward 7. Again, with being an agricultural community, it keeps them together in communities of interest. And lastly, Ward 8. That only change to Ward 8 is that little shift on Rainville Road, bringing the boundary a little bit south. That is the only change, and other than that, Ward 8 remains status quo as it is. You'll see on the chart later. So these are the numbers. I've used properties. In previous presentations, I had used addresses. Address is a little bit of a misleading use because, for example, everybody at the Chateau has the same address. Everybody in the West Nipissing Nonprofit Housing Corporation in the, can't remember the name of it down there. Yes, and Allen Court, they all have the same address. So instead of using address, I used actual properties. These are the numbers of physical roll numbers that are existing in each ward at this time. So currently, you'll see the numbers down the left-hand side for each one and where those numbers will shift to with this realignment. So some are up, some are down. You'll see there's not really a lot of change in the boundary. So Ward 2, which had 1,648 properties, will go down to 1,200. Ward 1, which had 978, will go up to 1,300. Ward 7, which had 759 properties, will go up to 1,000 properties. So as you can see, the numbers in the third column, or I guess the second column of numbers, they're more even than the numbers in the first column. So, and this is the overall map. As you can see, this is the overall proposed ward structure with the pop out of Ward 4, including Pedley and Bocage, and the rest of them. That's really the one that you see the most significant change on paper. But anyways, next slide. This is estimated eligible electors. So this is electors based on the changes. Electors, and this is, and I will be very clear, these are soft numbers because the data I have is from 2022. There is no new data. Even Elections Ontario, which is recently bringing things up to date because they've taken over from MPAC in terms of running the elections, their numbers are still using 2022. So these are soft numbers, and we know that people move around and properties split and subdivisions happen. So I'm not even sure what a plus or minus would be, but all things being equal, the numbers, the wards as they stand elector-wise on the left, the light blue lines, which are on the right, you'll see the 4 rural wards are a little more even, and the 4 urban wards are a little more even. And I've used like I said, I've used the property populations that I had the data from. So if you lived at 123 Allen Court, well, I used the number that people that were living in that house. If I shifted them, I shifted the 2022 people because I don't know who lives there now, and I won't know until probably early next year when we get a preliminary electors list from Elections Ontario. So, as I said, the end result of the work that council has done has brought the wards, made minor changes, but made a difference to the wards so that they're a little bit more equal, a little bit more addressing the guiding principles of this exercise. And we are still taking comments and online. As I noted at the beginning, the website will be open until the 15th of August. You can email me, you can call. We have an email address, which is wards@westnipissing.ca. You can send us an email. You can call me up if you have questions, or you can drop into the municipal office. Or you can use the online form. And all of the information that was shared tonight, our past reports, the maps, this presentation will be posted as well on the website probably tomorrow, so that if anybody who wants to go and have a look for themselves, you can find out what ward you're in now, and based on the information that's been shared, you should be able to see whether or not you are affected. As I said, it doesn't affect a lot of people, mostly on the fringes, but I think that I hope that where we're going is a good thing. The last part is the legal authority. Obviously, the Municipal Act authorizes this exercise. The deadline for comments is August 15th, as I said. And once a bylaw is adopted by council, there is an appeal period. So there is a 45-day appeal period following the passing of the bylaw, in which anyone who disagrees with what has been adopted has the opportunity to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And appeals would be submitted to the municipal clerk and forwarded on to the OLT. And if no appeal is finalized, the bylaw would be deemed to have taken effect, and those boundaries would take effect for the 2026 election. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for sitting through it, and questions, comments, and I know that even as I said, I think I said to Councillor Fenna at the beginning, even doing this exercise, thoughts came in my mind thinking, could have done that. Oh, might have done that. Because there's always little things that come to mind. I'm there.
Thank you. I guess my first question is in regards to that Pointe Agude, just which is the green that looks like an island, part of Ward 2. Because it's actually joined to the landmass through Ward 8. I don't know that there are any privately owned properties on that, but I would be interested to find.
There is one.
There is one?
Yeah.
So I don't know whether.
Right at the tip.
Whether it makes sense just to make the lines clean, or whether it doesn't make sense.
The difficulty is that particular property line, it has a Springer Township roll number.
Okay.
So it has it belongs to the township of Springer, not all the other islands belong to the township of Bertram.
Okay.
Yeah, that one there sits inside of.
Yeah, just because where it adjoins, like where the landmass actually adjoins.
Yeah, I know,
is
it's
wording,
funny.
so it is.
And there are some islands, as you see, up closer to Caldwell, to Iron Island. A couple of, they belong to Caldwell Township.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't belong to Bertram.
Okay.
But the vast majority of the islands are in the Bertram Township.
Okay, my second question was in regards to the Rainville Road shift to Alouette. It's still left with, you know me, I like straight lines. Is there a reason why that Ward 7 isn't continuing just a straight line along Alouette where it shifts up there? Do you remember?
Because Alouette doesn't go straight across. Alouette stops at Eugene Road and then drops down, and Poitier Road goes like that.
Okay.
It's because it doesn't
It
go
makes
all
sense on a road.
It doesn't,
No.
it doesn't go all the way across.
It's just my straight line.
Yeah, no, it's just, Alouette Road and Poitier Road are offset. Councillor Fenner?
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna wear my hat, my taxpayer hat this evening if I can.
Absolutely.
It's kind of related to what Mayor Rochon brought up with Goulet Point, but I really think that if you draw a line, the western boundary of Ward 8 on the mainland, you go straight down, I really think that all the islands that are west of that line, which is west of the tip of the Hardwood Islands, so it would include Goulet Point and all the surrounding islands and all the islands in the French River, should really be part of Ward, the green one is 2, right?
The green one is
We
2,
can't put
yes.
any more in 2.
Well, Ward 8 is already the highest one.
But it would also, but Ward 2 is the second highest one. And a lot of this is roll number based. And it's, the townships were set up, obviously council can do whatever they want. French River's got a lot of electors, because there's a lot of properties in there.
Yeah, but I think they have no connection to Ward 8 in the sense that they have no connection to, let's say, Lavigne. I would say Lavigne is kind of almost the heart of Ward 8. And, for example, nobody on Sandy Island docks in Lavigne. Probably nobody in Sandy Island ever goes to Lavigne. And they dock either in Cache Bay or on the Sturgeon River or on the south or the northern coast of the lake that's nearest the river in Cache Bay. So as far as cultural ties, if you want to call them that, I don't think they have many ties to Ward 8. They have many more toward either Ward numbers 2 or 1, I guess. Is it 1 and 2?
1 and 2.
Yeah.
I can't really speak to that. I know that's where they probably dock their boat and get in and launch and leave. I don't know whether culturally they're more connected. Sandy Island, yes, because Sandy Island, mostly the people on Sandy Island are residents of West Nipissing, somewhere else in West Nipissing. Yeah. The other islands, the French River, most of those residents are non-residents. Most of the people the vast majority of those people live in other municipalities, but they do get to vote.
I think a lot of them are Americans too.
Yeah, they don't get to vote.
They don't vote. So
no, they can't vote.
It doesn't really.
But a lot of the non-residents out there that can vote, it would be. We can certainly take a look at it. It's entirely up to council whether or not they want to. It's a little more intensive because there's a lot of little islands out there. But I could certainly do I guess we'd have to discuss. If you wanted to give me something visual to take a look at to see. Okay. What you're thinking in that way, because I could tell you what it would, because again, we want to try and keep the wards even number-wise and increasing either Ward 2 or 1, especially Ward 2, would put Ward 2 back up lopsided again. And again, it is also the ability of the councillor in that ward, to be able to serve those people. And, if the more people there are, the more phone calls you get and the more. Well,
I think that's, the councillor of Ward 8 has that problem.
I know him well.
I think I have met him once or twice.
You're just trying to pass the buck? I'm teasing. No, if you wanted to submit something and when we bring this back to council for conversation, obviously, comments are open until the 15th. We have a council meeting before that, but we could certainly bring it back in August and have a discussion if it was something that you give it to me, I can take a look at it and see if council has an appetite to go there.
So when this comes back, what date was this supposed to come back?
September 2nd.
Yeah. I'd like, timing wise, it would be good if we were able to adopt a bylaw in September or at the very latest early October.
So when it comes back, can council suggest or propose an amendment at that time? Or when it comes back, is it too late? It's that or nothing?
You can always propose an amendment to a bylaw, but it's always nice if the conversation is had at committee level ahead of time. And you get straw poll consensus there. But, you know, like I said, we certainly can talk about it again in August. There's nothing to stop a conversation in August. I will state we haven't had an overwhelming amount of feedback from the public. I'm guessing, you know, it's not as exciting as chickens. So it's a bit dry. But, you know, it's certainly if, you know, members of council, obviously, if you're going to give up something to get your friends around the table are going to have to agree to take it. So that'll be, that's your job, I guess, to lobby it. But we can certainly bring it back in August. If you want to bring me something in the short run so that I can be ready for it,
Okay.
maybe put in an agenda request.
Okay.
That'd be great. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Elise Willison, I'm a member of the public, I live south of Levine. Just based on the councillor said, you said you have to look at the numbers. I'm just curious, do you have like a ballpark figure of how many more people that would add to Ward 2 or 1 and would take away from 8 based on that?
I honestly, with the islands, I couldn't even begin to guess right now. There are lots and lots of them, and it'll be kind of a manual exercise because of the fact that many of them, as Councillor Ferran said, they are American citizens, and I will have to go through each island one by one to determine whether they are resident or non-resident. So yes, so I wouldn't even dare ballpark it.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
So if they're American citizens, they're not even named on the electoral list.
Maybe it'd be transitory too, so they're only here for short periods of time.
It doesn't matter if even people who live here, who have properties here and only come seasonally, anyone who owns or rents property in West Nipissing, if they are Canadian citizen, are eligible to vote.
And they can vote in two
Yes, if they live
two
elsewhere.
municipalities.
Yeah.
So if they live in Sudbury.
Yeah.
They can vote there and vote here.
That's correct. But they can't vote twice here. Like, so
No.
people on Sandy Island who have a cottage on Sandy Island and live on King Street can't vote twice. That's the rest of them.
I'm Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
Yeah, I should have said I'm Kathleen. Thank you.
Just a question you mentioned about Ward 3 and Levant Drive, the north and south. Is it the same for Ward 4? Or is all of Levant going into Ward 3?
No, the Pedley portion of Laval stays with Pedley.
So is that the same where they're both going to be moving north?
Well, I think that I'd have to look at my, he's gonna say, I need.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking while talking, I think I answered,
Yeah.
you helped me answer.
Because I believe that Laval Drive leaves Springer and goes into Pedley. That easterly portion would stay with Pedley Township. Because then we'd have just kind of like a street that would go out into it. You have the one,
The full, like the new full?
the big one, yeah, please, if you don't mind. Can you zoom in on Ward 4?
Ah, sorry about that. I don't know why it's not. Technical difficulties.
By the way, this is Kim Poirier at Marcoux, who is our communications officer. And this is Holly Giroir, she's the deputy clerk. And Kim is responsible for making me look really smart by doing this beautiful presentation. Holly's here to take notes and comments from people and questions. Yeah.
Presentation mode.
I'll look at it and I'll call you. How's that?
Yeah, no, that's good, because even in the last couple of elections, that whole portion that was Ward 4 was kind of weird because the road went straight and then it dipped up. So one side was 4, one was 5,
Mm-hmm.
but a small portion, both sides of the road were 5.
Because the road dipped up all the
Yeah,
way
instead
into
of being a straight
everything,
line.
all the way. Yeah. I'd like to tell you that all the roads in West Nipissing are arrow straight. That's not true.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Anyways, that is the Rolly.
Thank you. Oh, I love the changes that you made to Ward 6 and 7. It's great. I'm in line with this 100%. And thank you beautiful presentation, very easy to follow, so good work, girls. Good work, Melanie.
Thank you. So if there are no further questions, tell your friends, tell your enemies. Website's open until the 15th of August for questions or comments. Like I said, there hasn't been a lot. I did have one gentleman who, his only comment was that we should name them something more exciting than Ward. That they should maybe have names, but I think we're busy with Zambonis and
Yes.
Clouds right now. No time to name the wards. We'll stick with numbers.